All right, so the latest jobs report is out, and if you're feeling a little confused by the headlines, trust me, you are not alone. One report says job growth is booming, but then the next one is talking about rising unemployment. How can both of those things possibly be true? Well, we're going to untangle this whole thing and figure out what's really going on with the economy.
And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? Our job today is to cut through all that noise and get to the bottom of what these numbers actually mean for the economy, and for you. And it's a story that's really told in two completely different parts.
So let's kick things off with the good news, right? This is the number that got all the attention, the one that had a lot of folks breathing a sigh of relief. On the surface, things looked pretty good.
And here it is. The U.S. economy added 119,000 non-farm payroll jobs in September. Now, in times like these, with so much uncertainty, seeing a number well over 100,000, well, that feels like a pretty clear sign of a resilient and strong economy. And just to give that number some perspective, take a look at this table. If you follow the row for 2025, you can see this is a huge rebound from that little dip we saw in August. I mean, that's the kind of jump that makes you think the job market still got some serious gas in the tank.
So you might be asking, where did all these jobs come from? Well, the growth was really concentrated in a few key areas that have been pretty reliable lately: healthcare, education, and of course the hospitality sector. These are really the engines that were powering that big headline number.
Okay, but here's the catch, and it is a crucial one that kind of changes everything. This data isn't a snapshot of our economy today. Because of a government shutdown, the whole report got delayed. So what we're actually looking at is the job market from 2 months ago, all the way back in September. We're looking in the rearview mirror.
And this is where the whole story takes a really sharp turn. Because if you dig just a little deeper into that exact same report, a very different and honestly much more worrying picture starts to come into focus.
Get this. At the exact same time that businesses were reporting all that strong hiring, the unemployment rate actually went up to 4.4%. And this number, well, it points to a completely different reality, a much more concerning one.
And we're not just talking about a small little blip here. An unemployment rate of 4.4% is the highest we've seen in over 4 years. That is a significant milestone, and it is definitely not a good one. This also isn't some random one-off spike. If you just trace the row for 2025 on this chart, you can see the trend for yourself. It crept up from 4.2% in July to 4.3% in August, and now it's hit 4.4% in September. The direction here is unmistakable, and it's pointing up.
To really get this, we've got to look at another key metric. It's called continuing unemployment cases. Now, this isn't about new people filing for benefits for the first time. This is the total number of people who are staying unemployed week after week. It's a measure of how long people are stuck without a job.
And that number is nearly 2 million people. Think about that. Almost 2 million people are continuing to collect unemployment benefits. This really reinforces the story that the rising unemployment rate is telling us. It suggests it's not just that more people are losing their jobs, but it also might be getting a whole lot harder for them to find new ones.
So now we've got a real puzzle on our hands. How on earth can the economy be adding a solid 119,000 jobs while at the same time unemployment is hitting a 4-year high? How can both of these things be happening at once?
Well, the answer lies in how the government gets this information. See, it's not one report. It's actually 2 totally separate surveys. The first is the payroll report. That's where they ask businesses, hey, how many people did you hire? And that's where we get the positive 119,000 jobs number. But then there's the household survey. That's where they call people like you and me at home and ask, are you working? That's where the 4.4% unemployment rate comes from. So we're basically getting 2 different answers because we're asking 2 totally different groups of people.
Okay, so why does any of this matter to you? Why should you care about this tale of 2 numbers? Because it creates a massive dilemma for the folks at the Federal Reserve. And their next decision on interest rates, yeah, that could directly hit your wallet.
The huge question on everybody's mind right now is this. Faced with all this conflicting data, what is the Fed going to do? Will they cut interest rates at their December meeting to try and give the economy a little juice? You can believe there are some very powerful arguments on both sides of this debate. And you can see the whole debate laid out perfectly right here. The folks arguing for a rate cut, they're pointing straight at that rising 4.4% unemployment rate. Their argument is, hey, the economy is clearly weakening, and it needs some help. But the people arguing against a cut, they're pointing to that strong 119,000 job growth number and saying the market is still way too hot to even think about it. And the Fed is stuck right in the middle of this tug of war.
And if that wasn't complicated enough, this jobs report doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's a lot of other stuff happening in the economy right now that's making people feel pretty anxious about what's coming next.
Remember, that jobs data was from September. Since then, we've seen major companies, we're talking Amazon, Target, Verizon, announce significant white-collar layoffs. And a reason they keep citing? The increased use of AI. At the same time, consumer sentiment is down, which means people are feeling less confident about their finances. And all this is happening even as some big retailers like Walmart are reporting record profits. It is a deeply, deeply confusing environment out there. So all of that leaves us right here. We've got an official jobs report that's telling two completely different stories. We have new anxieties about AI and layoffs bubbling up everywhere. The critical question isn't just what the Fed is going to do, it's which one of these conflicting signals is the one we should actually be listening to, which one is telling us where the economy is truly headed.